The Prime Minister, in a very, very aggressive speech, laying down what he called the new normal against Pakistan. No question of terror and talks going together, no question of terror and trade going together, and no question of blood and water flowing together. The Prime Minister making it absolutely clear that Operation Sindoor was about justice for the widows, the daughters, the wives who lost their male members of their family in the Pahalgam terror attack. Operation Sindoor has raised a new normal, and that is that India will strike deep inside Pakistan, inside Bahawalpur, inside Muridke, the headquarters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the headquarters of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. It will not hesitate. And no country can use the bogey of nuclear blackmail to threaten India. So the Prime Minister making it absolutely clear that India's intention was to bring the terrorists to justice, and they have. As far as Pakistan is concerned, there is no question of any talks and terror going together. The only talks, if at all it happens with Pakistan, is going to be on terrorism. It's going to be on Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. He did say this is not the era of war, but this is also not the era of terrorism. Let me go across to Aman Sharma, who's joining us. Pallavi Ghosh is also joining us. Aman, what is the big 2 or 3 takeaways for you in the Prime Minister's speech?
See, Zaka, I think the Prime Minister spelling out what is the new normal for India. He is clearly saying at any terror attack against India, muh tod jawab diya jayega. India will act with all its might. India will show its power. Also, Prime Minister saying that we will act strongly at the roots of terror. No nuclear blackmail will be tolerated by India. And this has been shown through Operation Sindoor by striking at the terror headquarters as well as attacking the Pakistani air bases when we were attacked. Also, very importantly, I think the Prime Minister saying this is the big headline, that government supporting terror and the terror masterminds will not be seen separately. We will consider the terror masterminds and the government of Pakistan as one entity. He's clearly saying that the presence of senior Pakistani army officers at the funerals of terrorists killed in Operation Sindoor has exposed Pakistan to the world that these are one entity. Pakistan is fueling terror on its soil, and India is very clearly saying we won't see you separately. Also, the Prime Minister very, very clearly saying that the only talks that India will have with Pakistan is one, on terror, and number 2, on Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So the Prime Minister is clearly saying that we only want to talk to you if you end terror and if you return Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to us. This is a very, very strong line set by the Prime Minister. As you correctly said, this age is not of war, the Prime Minister saying, but this age is not of terror as well. I think that towards the end what he said, that terror and talk can't go together, terror and trade cannot go together, or pani or khoon ek saath nahi beh sakte. This means the Indus Water Treaty remains on hold. India has no plans to revive it. The Prime Minister making it very clear, till Pakistan does not stop terror, Indus Water Treaty won't be applicable. The Prime Minister also saying that India believes in peace. India is the land of Buddha. India believes in peace, but the road to peace also goes through strength. And if India has its strength, it will show its strength. And I think this is a veiled message to the US as well.
And Payal, also the Prime Minister clarifying that Operation Sindoor has only been paused. It has not been terminated. It has not been ended. And whether or not it continues depends entirely on Pakistan's behavior, whether it cooperates, whether it gives up this idea of trying to attack our military and civilian installations. The Prime Minister being absolutely drawing the red line for Pakistan that this is the new normal. You cannot think that terror and trade can go together, or terror and talks can go together, or even for that matter, water and blood can flow together.
Well, of course, this is the most aggressive that you've seen Narendra Modi in the last 11 years. Zaka, he's come out absolutely and not only told the people of Pakistan to just mend their ways and make sure that they're not needle India, because every time that they needed India, India will reply back in equal force. But he also, when he said that, terror and talks will not go together, remember he said this very clearly that I want to tell the whole world, मैं सारे विश्व के समुदाय को बताना चाहता हूँ कि अगर हम पाकिस्तान के बाद बात करेंगे तो भी वो terror पे होगी, terror only be on POK, and terror and talks will not happen together, terror and blood will not flow together, and most importantly, and that should actually worry Pakistan right now, Zaka, when he says that terror and water will also not flow together as well. So Pakistan is probably not able to understand right now the impact of what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been saying along, what India meant by saying that they would actually put the Indus Water Treaty on abeyance as well. So big statement coming in from the Prime Minister detailing before the countrymen what really transpired from the time that the attack took place on the 22nd of April to now, and what India has really done, that India did not attack anybody proactively. India was very confident of defending its own body. India did not attack any civilians, but Pakistan tried to attack civilians as well. And of course, his gratitude towards the armed forces, his gratitude towards the intelligence unit as well, all of them, it's been a whole of government approach, it's been a whole of a country approach, because many people, including the common man, also stood very strongly with the Prime Minister in everything that the government really asked. They wanted people to follow the blackout rule, they wanted people to actually do the civil defense work really going. Every single person has had a contribution to make towards Cause India, and that has been Narendra Modi's biggest strength. Dhaka, right from the fact that he announced that there would be lockdown for 3 to 4 months, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has always been able to win the confidence of people and take them along in whatever decision he's been taking.
All right, I also want to go across to Pallavi. Pallavi, so the Prime Minister also saying that this is the new normal, that Pakistan cannot think that they can undertake these terror attacks and get away with it. He's also said there is no question of separating any kind of non-state actors from state actors. If Pakistani uniformed personnel, military personnel are showing up at the funerals of terrorists, then what more proof does the world need?
Well, the pictures that we have been seeing coming in from Pakistan, the visuals which we saw just post the Pahalgam terror attack, the Prime Minister very clearly kept that in mind and made a reference to each one of them. It was a very emotive speech, and as we were talking about Zaka, nothing very political. He actually made a reference to the fact that the entire country, all political parties were together on one page as far as the fight against Pakistan is concerned. There were very menacing words, very warning words which the Prime Minister gave not just to Pakistan but also to the world. Apart from terror and talks and terror and trade and blood and water cannot go together, I found something very important which he said, and this is where he was directly addressing the world, the global community, that if you want us to talk to Pakistan, it can only be on two issues. One is on terror and second is on POK. I think it was very strong messaging the Prime Minister gave today, a reassurance to the people of the country, of course, a menacing word, a clear warning that Operation Sindoor has not ended. It's just a pause, and hum aapke upar pal pal ki nazar rakhenge, and then the way you behave is how we are going to respond. He made that clear. But most importantly, the Prime Minister made it very clear to the world that we are going to be talking terror. That's the only menu on the platter if we do have that conversation with Pakistan.
All right, Pallavi, Payal and Aman, thank you very much for joining us. So a very forceful, very assertive speech by the Prime Minister, underlining what were the objectives of Operation Sindoor, how they have been achieved, and also putting out a warning shot to Pakistan. Don't try to do this terror business again, because this is now a new normal. If you try to do this, then we will hit you deep inside your mainland. We will not hesitate hitting the headquarters of these terror organizations. We will not make a distinction between non-state and state actors, and that there is nothing to talk to except two issues. One, if you want to talk to us, we will talk to you about terrorism, and if you want to talk to us, we will talk to you about Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Terror and talks cannot go together. Terror and trade cannot go together. Water and blood cannot flow together. He's also clarified that Operation Sindoor has merely been paused. It has not been halted, which means its continuance or non-continuance will depend on how Pakistan behaves from here on hence. Syed Zafar Islam is national spokesperson of the BJP. Mahima Singh is spokesperson of the Congress Party. Lieutenant General retired Hari Mohan Iyer is former Chief of Staff of the Northern Command of the Indian Army. Tilak Devasher, author and former member of the National Security Advisory Board. And here in our studios, Major retired Manik Jolly, strategic affairs expert. Let me start with you, Mahima Singh. Has the Prime Minister now drawn the red lines as far as Pakistan is concerned, that Operation Sindoor is an operation which brought justice to the daughters, wives, sisters of this country who lost their male family members on the 22nd of April in Pahalgam, and that Pakistan was the one that came crawling, begging for peace, begging for a ceasefire on the morning of the 10th of May?
Jai Hind, if you're asking me that have we found a fruitful conclusion, absolutely not, Zaka. I would say that these ornate speeches, these hollow slogans will not do. We want to straightforward ask this government, have they faced the terrorists, the perpetrators of the Pahalgam terror attack with justice? Have those terrorists been faced with justice? Have they met their fate? I do not think so. There's no clear answer to that. And today, as we speak and as we hear our Prime Minister, who do we trust, Zaka? Do we trust Trump, who goes on to make an announcement right ahead of our Prime Minister's speech that, well, I threatened India and Pakistan that either you reach a conclusion, a ceasefire, or no trade between Pakistan and India. A president of the US that puts India and Pakistan on one pedestal. A president of US that dares to teach us lessons on Kashmir, that dares to call Kashmir a 1,000-year-old issue. Why is our government silent on that? Why did I not hear my Prime Minister today speak about, condemn the US president's position that they are repeatedly releasing statements after statements?
Zafar Islam, so on Saturday, the US president puts out a tweet, and just half an hour before the Prime Minister's speech, he again addressed the world and said that, look, I've told India and Pakistan to stop this fighting, and that if you stop the fighting, we will do trade with you, and so on and so forth. In public perception, it seems like it was American intervention that stopped this war. Syed Zafar Islam, please clarify.
Well, I will address your question later. First, let me give you some feedback on what has been spoken by the Honorable Prime Minister. This was a direct message to the enemy country. It was a message. Please do not make noise. Please, this show is not about making noise. I've heard you. I'll respond to that as well. This speech will be remembered forever, because the Honorable Prime Minister has addressed the nation. First of all, the people of India must know what exactly we have done. We have uprooted the enemy terrors, all the terror hideouts, their terror sites, and the army installations where from there they were firing drones. So we have inflicted injuries. We have given death to all the terrorists, and also given a clear message to Pakistan in today's speech that should they try any misadventure in the future, they will meet the same fate as they have met at this time, and they started approaching DGMO and all. As far as the global community is concerned, the Honorable Prime Minister has very candidly said that if at all we will talk, we'll talk and let the people bark whatever they want to bark. But we are making our stand very, very clear. I don't know what the US President is speaking, what the other people are speaking, because they have no business to speak about Kashmir, or for that matter about the internal issues of India. People know how Trump speaks. Trump had spoken about China, that they will never do trade with China, and they will put a tariff of 500% or 300%, 200%, and today is 30%. So they have reduced. So nobody believes Trump, and nobody will believe Trump.
So Tilak Devashir, now let me move away from the political spokespersons. One second, Tilak Devashir, the feeling was that we had Pakistan, really crawling and coming back and waving the white flag after Pakistan realized the amount of damage that's been caused to frontline air bases, including Noor Khan, one of their most important air bases. But the messaging seems to be that Trump jumped the gun and Trump started to claim credit for it. Has the government of India, has the Prime Minister's speech today gone so far as to correct that perception?
Let me begin by saying that this is one of the finest speeches I've heard the Prime Minister make. This is a speech for the history books and will be remembered for a very, very long time. See, what is the significance of the speech? That he's laying down Indian doctrine henceforth, whether it's on terror, whether it's on war, whether it is on what India will do in case anybody challenges it or carries out terrorism. This is just something to remember. You can get bogged down in pettiness and nitpick. But the fact of the matter is that the Indian doctrine henceforth is going to be very, very aggressive, will not accept any kind of terror, will continue the Operation Sindoor till such time, and we'll monitor Pakistan very carefully. He's given also Pakistan an off-ramp that you dismantle your terror structure and live in peace. If you don't dismantle the terror infrastructure, we will not make a distinction between the army and the government. We will treat them all at the same level. I think it's a very, very significant speech. As far as President Trump and US claiming credit, I think everybody in the world knows India's declared policy. We do not accept third-party mediation.
Yeah.
There is no question of anybody else saying that I mediated, I did this. The fact of the matter is that the DGMO picked up the phone of DGMO Pakistan, picked up the phone and contacted the Indian DGMO and asked for ceasefire because of the kind of damage that the armed forces had inflicted on Pakistan. Where is the question of anybody mediating? And the DGMO spoke to him directly. They came to an understanding to cease hostilities temporarily till the ceasefire was worked out. So I would say, let's look at this speech.
One second, Mahima. There are two other guests also. I need to go to them. Lieutenant General Iyer is also there with us. Major Jolly is also here with us. Please, come on. Let's be courteous enough to extend the same amount of time to the other guests also. Lieutenant General Iyer, the point is, the Prime Minister also said there was this whole business of nuclear blackmail. Oh, that Pakistan has nuclear weapons and therefore India can't act against these terror infrastructure and these terrorists. Has that now been completely busted with these 9 strikes on these terror launch pads and terror headquarters? And also, when the Pakistan army thought that it can, try to take on India's civilian and military installations, they got a befitting response where at least a dozen of their frontline air bases were attacked and at least 2 of them were rendered useless. Has this now set a new normal for how India will respond to terror, whether from state actors or from non-state actors?
Thank you, Zaka. The best point that I take from the Prime Minister's speech is the aspect that India will not cow down to nuclear blackmail. And he made it very, very clear that nobody can blackmail India with nuclear weapons. And that actually, as a defense man, it makes my job very easy. Otherwise, when the moment comes, I have to keep worrying where the nuclear red line is. But if my government is very clear to say, don't worry about the nuclear red line, you make your plans and carry out operations, it makes the job of the soldier very easy. I must say this is the first time a Prime Minister of the country has made this kind of an announcement. And as a member of the armed forces, I find it extremely very powerful to find a kind of statement coming from the Prime Minister. The second issue is the issue of next time a terror attack happens, it will be responded in a manner that we perceive. He has left the window very wide. He has left the entire spectrum very wide. That means that the armed forces can thereafter plan for operations not just in shallow depth, but they can look at operations throughout the length and breadth of Pakistan. And the third issue which I'd like to put in place is, landing a missile at Rahim Yar Khan or Noor Khan or Sargoda is not the main issue. The issue is that we can knock down their nuclear command authority, their nuclear assets when it comes to a requirement.
Okay.
It's a symbolic strike, and I think the Pakistanis have understood the value of these strikes, and that is why they went to the Americans to ask for a ceasefire.
So let me ask Major Jolly, at the end of the day, when the chapter on Operation Sindoor and the subsequent 4 days are written, India would have made its red lines clear. India would have put out a new normal that it's not going to be business as usual. If Pakistan dares to try yet another terror attack, then the lines between state and non-state will be blurred. We're not just going to hit the tail of the snake, we're going to hit the head of the snake, which is what the Indian Armed Forces did in Operation Sindoor, in Murid Ke, Bahawalpur, etc. Will this now draw a new normal for this pattern that we've been stuck in? Pakistan hits with a terror attack, India hits back with punitive action.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. The thing is, what the earlier normal had been, Pakistan had always been following this, bleed them with 1,000 cuts. It became a very popular thing. They kept doing these 1,000 cuts, but we punched them down with one final stroke. What we have achieved here is a complete symmetry in intelligence agencies, actionable forces, and political will. When all these three are aligned, we have achieved a level where we can tell Pakistan that we will strike you when we want, where we want, and with the authority of what weapons we want. You do not have any control over that. And secondly, I think the more critical thing that has come out is, as leader of the nation, when the Prime Minister of the country stands up and says, we will not tolerate any terror attack and it will be taken as a action against our country, and we will treat it as a war, and we will go against state/non-state actors as the same thing. It makes a lot of difference than what our official position has been earlier.
All right, Mahima Singh.
So, Zaka, you see, I bear deep respect for our armed forces, and we have shown the world again and again of the power our armed forces are, the formidable power we are as a country in terms of armed forces. But today, when the BJP spokesperson speaks and says, we have finished all the terrorists, isn't that very conveniently ambiguous of the ruling party? Isn't that that the men in uniform, retired men, are talking here about? We want to know, what is the government going to make of this broad spectrum? Because we know one thing for sure, Zaka, that this government is capable of politicizing everything.
Okay.
Just yesterday we saw the BJP handlers, allow me to finish. BJP handlers projecting the minister's picture in a uniform of armed forces and saying, Yachna nahi ab ran hoga. Then what happened to that run by the end of the day?
So yes, Zafar Islam, respond to both of those questions. No, let him respond to both of those questions. You've asked two questions, fair questions. Let him please respond, madam, please. Madam, please, come on. Two questions you asked. What happened to the 4 or 5 terrorists who undertook Pahalgam? Have they been accounted for? And second, what are the contours of this ceasefire, this stoppage of fire? Let Zafar respond.
Ask her to.
Ma'am, please.
Zaka, I have not interrupted. Please
This is not the way. This is not the way. Yeah. This is not the way, please. This is not the way. Zafar, respond.
I have to make
Zafar, respond, please.
Zaka,
Ma'am, you're a lawyer. You know the rules of the debate. Let Zafar respond.
stop.
Thank you. Yeah, Zafar.
First of all, Zaka, our armed forces, they have demonstrated something which nobody had anticipated or expected, that Indian armed forces have this kind of supremacy, this kind of might, which they have demonstrated. The world is now acknowledging India's supremacy in this space. Second, our neighbor country, which is the enemy country, now they have also acknowledged that India is a strong nation now under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister. They can strike you deep down. Up to 200 kilometers, we have struck their air base and army installation and all the other installations. Third, which is very important, that the Honorable Prime Minister in his speech said that the armed forces and the government got strength because the whole country was united, standing behind the government, because we wanted to take revenge from the enemy country. Today, there are some people or some political parties want to politicize and give a different color. There are people in the. Please allow me to speak. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you. Have the patience to listen to others as well.
No, ma'am, no, you can't interrupt other guests. No, this is not the way. No, this is not the way. Please don't force me to pull down your fader. No. He heard you patiently. All other guests heard you patiently. I gave you ample time. Now you have to listen to him. Yes. No, I'm sorry. No, sorry. Yes, Zafar.
This is a historic speech.
No, but please answer the question. Don't give us adjectives, Zafar, come on, hang on. Have you caught the 4 terrorists who undertook Pahalgam? And 2, why did you agree to a sudden ceasefire?
We have killed more than 100 terrorists.
Please answer these 2 questions.
We have killed more than 100 terrorists. Secondly, they approach, DGMO approached India, not us. The Pakistani DGMO approached our DGMO. By then, we have inflicted enough pain for the Pakistani and their army that they had to be on their knees and request us for ceasefire.
Okay.
That is what the Honorable
I'll give the closing comments to the service. I'll give the closing comments to the service folks. I'll start with Tilak Deveshwar. 1 minute each, please. Tilak Deveshwar, how will Operation Sindoor and the 3 days post that, where India inflicted costs, India raised the bar, and yet called out Pakistan's nuclear bluff and said there are a range of options that are sub-nuclear. How will this now be treated as the new normal when it comes to India responding to Pakistan-sponsored terrorism?
I think Pakistan needs to pay close attention to whatever the Prime Minister has said. Because as far as India is concerned, it is now the doctrine that any terror attack, no distinction will be made between the terrorists and their backers. And it's an invitation to war on the battlefield. Number one. Number two, India will not be bothered about nuclear blackmail. It will not, Pakistan has always been talking about tactical nuclear weapons and the threatened nuclear war. India is not going to be concerned. And I think this frees the army, the armed forces to do what is necessary to ensure the safety of our citizens.
Okay. General Iyer, the fact that the Prime Minister said there are only two things to talk about. If Pakistan wants to talk, they talk about terror. If Pakistan wants to talk, we talk about the return of illegally occupied, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. These are the only two things to talk about. Does that clarify all this business about mediation and Trump saying, oh, I'll help find a solution to Kashmir, etc.?
Yes, Zaka, I would like to add one more thing to it. When the Indus Water Treaty was put on a bench, the response came from Pakistan that it's an act of war.
Correct.
And we are in an act of war. And yesterday, Pakistan has asked for a ceasefire, which primarily tells us that he doesn't have any other option against the Indus Water Treaty as it stands. I wanted to convey it in the first part. I just missed out.
Okay.
Now, coming on 2 points which you raised. Firstly, terror and talks. This has been an old stated aim of our country. And till now, we had been following it, except for that one exception when a meeting happened in Sharm el-Sheikh in 2011. After that, I don't think we have had, any meeting with Pakistan per se, whether it was the previous dispensation or the current one. I don't want to get into the politics part of it.
All right.
But today, Prime Minister has made it absolutely clear that we will not talk to any country until and unless he stops propagating terror against us.
Okay, very final word, Major Jolly. I have to wrap up, completely out of time. But your biggest takeaway from the Prime Minister's 25-minute speech?
I think I'd rather just clarify about the hunting 5 terrorists that the lady was talking about.
Yes.
Ma'am, it's sometimes very complicated to catch just these 5 terrorists. Takes time. There are terrorists from 1990s. There are terrorists from Khalistani terrorists, which has not been hunted down. But what we have achieved in these 4-5 days is phenomenal. To take out a nuclear country's air bases at will, to totally destroy their air defense capability, to show that, ma'am, I'm not a political debater. You will have to let me speak.
And I have to wrap up as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all our guests. All I'll say is this, that I think if you keep away the politics and the politics around, was there mediation, no mediation, etc., that debate will continue. But I think India has drawn a line in the sand that if Pakistan aims to put pressure on India by doing these terrorist attacks, India will raise the cost with each attack. India will raise the cost on Pakistan. There will be no distinction between state and non-state actors. And if it means hitting deep inside Pakistan, in Bahawalpur, in Muridke, in some of the frontline air bases, then that is not a line that India is loath to breaching. Also, the Prime Minister very clearly said that Operation Sindoor has only been paused, it has not been stopped, and it is entirely going to be on Pakistan's behavior whether or not Operation Sindoor will continue.
Network 18 is now the clear leader in digital media, with 55% more users on native platforms and social media than Times Internet. Network 18, the undisputed leader of news networks, way ahead of the times.